Howdy folks, thanks for tuning in for another Cruise with Smooth. Another day down at the old 9 to 5. I use the term very loosely considering it's dark out and I'm heading home. Before I get into kind of what's on my mind today, if you like what you've been seeing, give me a like, share, subscribe. Love to hear from you in the comments, something I've always said. If there is something that you're curious on my opinion of that I haven't touched on, I would love to hear from it in the comments. And if it's something I'm unfamiliar with, I'll go so far as to research it. So, I have been, since the 2016 election, I've kind of changed the way that I consume news a bit. I watched the debates between Trump and Hillary. I watched several of them on the Facebook live stream. And the one thing that I thought was being missed in the polls, and I can't say I was 100% right, but I was right to a point. Whenever Trump was speaking, you were always getting thumbs up and hearts. And whenever he'd make a clever joke at Hillary's expense, you'd get, the laughing emoji on the live stream. Well, whenever it'd go to Hillary, just mad faces just scrolling up as fast as they could with a few likes and hearts. So I don't know if that's just the demographic of who was watching, between the parties, or what. But it was noticeable on the live stream. So I think that's something that might have been missed by 2016 polling. And I thought that Trump had a pretty decent shot at winning the presidency. That was, or at least a better shot at winning the presidency than was being reported, I think would be the best way to put that. So this go around, there's confounding factors where I think he's got as good a shot as Joe Biden. I mean, we won't know till election night or whenever the late polling closes for mail-in ballots or whatever. But the reason why I say that, and I'm not willing to put he's got a decent shot, I'm not willing to put that on it, is there have been several Trump voters that I've heard of that are not planning on voting for him for a second term. On the flip side of that, there are several people that voted Democrat last go round that are planning on voting for Trump this election. A lot of polling data comes from previous voters. So if you were a likely voter or planning on voting, you may not necessarily get included, and that can be the kind of thing where you haven't voted, you have a person that hasn't voted in the past several elections where finally they want to make their voice heard. Fair enough. And, they might be voting for or against Trump. I don't know. The polling, the data doesn't exist for that. To my knowledge anyway. You've also had several movements walk away movement, the Blexit movement, all about people of the Blexit movement is specifically spearheaded by people like Candace Owens, and I'm not saying I agree with any of their messaging, although I do like Candace. I think she's a pretty sharp person. But this isn't a full-on endorsement of all of her points of view. But you've got people like Candace Owens, Kanye West, 50 Cent, and there's one other one, Ice Cube, that are not necessarily going full Trump, but they're definitely going anti-Biden. And so they might be a fan of Joe Jorgensen, they might be a fan of voting for Kanye West. I don't know. That's between them and their polling place, the way I look at it. But I do think that there are many confounding factors. Also, new voter registration is up for the Republican Party in a lot of places that historically vote Democrat in a lot of districts. Plus, you've got a lot of people that have switched their registration, people that have never voted in years and never registering to vote as Republicans. I don't know what all that translates to. This is literally just a way for me to get what's on my mind out into the open and maybe share some insights that people may not have thought of before. So I do know, and I've had this theory and whatnot for a while, that the polling is tightening in a lot of the key states, that whoever wins the election, they're going to have to carry. And they had Biden up 10, 12, 14, and they've been tightening over the past several weeks. So I'm not saying I know what to make of it, but I am saying that I don't think the polling from a month ago is what's going to be reflected come election night. I do think that some of the states that even today that Biden might be predicted to carry, he doesn't. I do think it's possible that some of the states that Trump was predicted to carry, he doesn't. I do think that the coalition that the Biden campaign is counting on to show up and go vote for Biden isn't going to show up in the numbers that they're expecting. I was listening to the news earlier today. I don't remember the source cited, but a lot of public and private union workers are planning on voting for Trump. The union bosses still, of course, put out, we endorse Joe Biden, but their membership's breaking away from where the bosses are sending the money, so to speak. There's been a breakaway in the gay community for Trump, and that's historically a solid Democratic voting bloc. The black community, the Hispanic community, the legal immigrants are, and a lot of them, not just the Hispanic community, but all the immigrant communities where they came through and waded through the system legally, they're breaking pretty hard for Trump. So it's going to be, I can see a distinct possibility where either candidate wins. What I don't see is a strong likelihood that they win with a conventional voting bloc. I think that if Biden does win, he's going to pack a lot of Trump voters from 2016. I think he's going to pack a lot of blue-collar workers. I think if Trump wins, he's going to lose a percentage of his original voting base in 2016. But I think he's going to carve into some key Democrat voting blocks and steal that away from them. I don't know how that's going to turn out. Another thing that's really confounding, in my opinion, is the mail-in voting in certain states. Now, I want to be clear, absentee ballots where you make a request and there's chain of custody on everything, I am 100% okay with, but the universal mail-in certain states, I think is just asking for trouble. I really do, for a lot of reasons. First off, I've heard 2 or 3 stories, at least, and these aren't easy to find, about there being trashed Republican ballots, mail-in ballots, the universal ones that have been in the trash. There was also a 10 mail-in ballots requested for members of the armed forces that were filled out Republican that were discarded. Investigations have gone into them. I haven't heard anything following up on that. There have been several stories that I've heard about where you've got, say, rental properties where people have lived there for a while and move out and live there and move out, and their voter registration may not necessarily be 100% up to date. While they're still registered and going to vote, they might not be registered at their current address, or the paperwork just might not have gotten there. I've seen a picture. Someone had 5 universal mail voting ballots. In their possession, all addressed to the same address, but to different individuals. I've also heard stories about people, due to COVID, trying to be safe and disinfecting their ballots before they go handling them, which I get it, but they're destroying their ballots. And this late in the game, they're scrambling to try to get new ones. They don't want to go out and vote, so they're scrambling to get new ones. So I think there's just a ton of confounding factors. And I don't know, there are obviously certain factors in this that are going to help one candidate more than another. I don't know when you add all those numbers together and, who carved what percentage of whose base up and stole these votes, or, won these votes over from across the party, or, converted Republican or Democrat or whatever. I don't know how that balances out. I don't know if essentially Trump's percentage of support in the population is going to be the same. I don't know if it's going to be higher. I don't know if it's going to be lower. I know there are some people that voted for him that have swore him off for life. I know that there's some people that are way more okay with him than they are with Biden. I know there's some people that have just always been diehard Trump supporters and wouldn't ever consider voting any other way no matter what. So I just find it very... Oh, big wreck. Whoa. I have no idea what happened there, but that's a big one. 18-wheeler off in the median. I don't know how that happened, but they've got the interstate shut down going the other way. So I don't know how all that's going to filter down, but I think it's going to be very interesting to see, people that have voted historically one way or another, how hard they broke the opposite way, and different people groups breaking one way or another. I do think that, this is again just my opinion, I do think that people are beginning to see through a lot of media covering up for one party or another. And here's my take on it. If you watch CNN, they're not going to be critical of Biden and Harris and the majority of Democrats. If you watch Fox News, they're not going to be critical of Donald Trump by and large. I did read that Fox is the only place that gives Trump favorable media coverage, but even then, it's not as high of a percentage as the favorable coverage that Biden gets from other mainstream news organizations such as CNN, MSNBC, CBS. So I do think that a lot of people are beginning to see through that, and I've seen through that for a while. You know, Trump does something that I think is stupid and ignorant, and, you know, people that go out there defending everything the man tweets drives me crazy, and I've seen that on Fox. Some of their presenters. And people that go out there and will lie through their freaking teeth to defend a Biden gaffe. And he didn't say that. He never said that. That's kind of stupid too. You know, if your preferred candidate does something fantastic, that's fine. I'll acknowledge that. If my preferred candidate does something stupid, I have no problem saying, hey, put the phone down, get off of Twitter, and quit tweeting stupid stuff. You know, when he tweets out, you know, hey, this, that, or the other coming down, stay tuned, I'm okay with that. When he goes on these Twitter, whoa, someone ran off the road in a big way. And I can't get to him because I got a car behind me and there's a guardrail in the way. But, you know, I don't have a problem with that. But when Trump gets into these Twitter wars or just political grandstanding on Twitter, that's stupid. If he goes out on Twitter and says, hey, you know, big press, you know, big news coming in a press conference tonight, stay tuned, going live on this news station at such and such a time for an interview, stay tuned. Stuff like that I don't have a problem with, but when he just tweets as a Twitter troll, that I think is just stupid. I think it's funny that so many people give it so much credence one way or another, and that whenever Trump tweets there, he generates news coverage about himself, whether it's, hey, I just figured that I'm laying down in bed at 4 a.m. and I'd tweet y'all, you know, that's news. Why is he awake at 4 a.m? Is it possible the president has prostate cancer because he has to go to the bathroom at 4 a.m? You know, dumb coverage like that. But then people will, there's no way the president has prostate cancer. I mean, for Pete's sakes, he tweeted this, and, well, he tweeted back at someone else, and that's brilliant. No, it's not. It's Twitter. It's a dumpster fire. So I think that a lot of people are seeing through media coverage and seeking alternative sources. And I'll say that, you know, I listen to a variety of podcasts to consume 98% of my news. And all of them are biased one way or another. Matter of fact, the majority of the podcasts I listen to, none of them voted for Trump. One of them, I think 2 of them are planning to the next go around, but none of them voted for Trump, to my knowledge, in 2016. And so I personally think that, you know, you're not going to get bias out, but these people at least openly admit, you know, hey, here's what I believe in, here's where I come from on these issues, here's why I did or didn't vote for Trump, here's why I will or won't vote for him again, but here's the news. And they might have a slant on it that I disagree with, but they're not, you know, we must defend the precious no matter the cost. And I think that a lot of news organizations are losing their credibility, and I think a lot of people are seeing them lose their credibility. And so I think that a lot of a lot of the coverage of this current election is going to end up being proven inaccurate. I do think there's silent Trump voters. I do think that there's, and I said this a while back, and this was funny. Okay, rewinding to 2015 when everybody announced that they were running for president. You had what? Trump, Carly Fiorina, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, John Kasich, Ben Carson, the whole field that was running. I can't remember all their names. And Bernie, Clinton, and Webb running as Democrats. When you had all that happen, I put a sticker on the car. I said, anyone but Hillary 2016. That's what I put on my car in 2015. I didn't care who the nominee was. I was never going to vote for Clinton. Well, I had family come in from New York while that sticker was on the car. And they said, you could never drive this car to New York. I'm like, why? They said, you'd get your windows beat in because of that sticker. I'm like, well, I'm glad I wasn't planning on coming to New York. And I don't really plan on putting the Trump sticker on the car. I know that there's a lot of people that do have opinions politically, one way or the other, that they're quiet about because they just don't want the trouble of confrontation. You know, there's some people that you just get a feel for, and you can talk politics with them, and you can even agree to disagree. Unfortunately, it seems like those types of interactions are becoming more few and far between. And so I think that pollsters might be getting duped in their numbers that, oh, yeah, sure, I'll vote for Biden. And I've heard this theory that, you know, people have gotten doxxed over less in a lot of cases. And, you know, pollsters, well, we've got your name and your phone number and this and that, so if you're, you know, historically a Democrat voter, we could blast you on social media. I'm not saying they would, I'm not saying they could, but it's decidedly a possibility. So I can see that there would be a secret Trump voter. But I do stand by my prediction I made the other night, that if the president wins by, whoever wins by 50 million votes, suppose they win 48 out of 50 states by popular and electoral college. Whoever loses carries California and New York. We'll just pick those states. Whoever loses carries 2 states. We'll throw Hawaii in there too. But you've got a 47 state victory by the Electoral College. And by popular vote, 50 million. I still stand by what I said. I think that there's going to be very limited violence if Biden wins. I think there's going to be major violence if Trump wins. I think if Joe Jorgensen wins, that it's going to be just everybody staring at each other very confused. I think if Kanye wins, someone better start blasting his rap at the inauguration. Anyway, I've gone on long enough, folks. That's something that I kind of wanted to expand on a little bit, just the confounding factors in polling for 2020. Like I said, I don't know what it translates to. If any of you have any opinions, let me know. Talk to y'all next time. Thanks for tuning in.